Okay, let's talk about pause reps, all right? Why you see them prescribed, what the benefit is, and also why you might see me prescribe a pause at the top of a rep, right? Or maybe at the bottom of the rep. So whether it's in the contraction or whether it's in the release. So a pause rep is mostly prescribed in order to increase the tension placed on our muscle. And the reason why that matters is when we are trying to build strength and we're trying to build muscle, we need tension to be placed on that muscle, an appropriate amount of tension, AKA your weight, your external load, before we ask it to make that contraction. So when we ask it to make a contraction with enough tension placed on that muscle, over time, that's how we get stronger and therefore handle more weight over time, right? And so when I'm asking you to hold a 2-second pause at the bottom of the rep, it's because we are trying to place more tension on that muscle. And when we place more tension on the muscle using time and tempo, you are likely not going to be able to lift the exact same weight as you would if we did not have a pause at the bottom, okay? So know that when you're seeing different tempo changes, and let's say a back squat with no tempo and a back squat with a 2-second pause at the bottom, you're inherently going to be able to lift way more weight without that tempo, okay? So it's an added challenge. The reason that we want to sometimes leverage pauses to add more tension to our body instead of just like adding extra weight is because there's been research that has shown that our muscles get stronger a lot faster than our connective tissue and our joints do, okay? So that doesn't create a great situation when we can handle to lift more external load, but our joints and our ligaments and our tendons are not there yet, okay? So when we add some pauses, we are allowing everything in our body, our bones, our connective tissue, our joints, our muscles, everything to be able to catch up to that added strength, right? Or that strength that we have attained, right? And so it's really important to understand that when we are adding pauses, it's not a bad thing if you can't handle the same weight as you would without a pause. That's intentional for a reason. Now, holding a pause at the bottom of a rep in the contraction is going to be different per muscle group that we're using, right? So the bottom of a squat is going to be a little bit different, right? This is where the tension is being placed on our muscles in the contraction. Then let's say at the top of a lateral raise. This is where the contraction is, okay? So it's important to read those form cues and understand the muscle group that we're using, where that contraction is being placed, whether it's up here, right, in the contraction at the top of a rep versus down here at the bottom of a rep. So not all pauses are created equal, but they are used for the same general purpose to help us progress, to help us get stronger in a more safe manner. The next reason you might see me prescribe a pause would be on a movement that is just really easy to go to quickly and or use our body's momentum, okay? If we're going too quickly and if we are swinging weight or using our body's momentum, we're not actually recruiting our muscle fibers to complete that contraction, so the efficacy of that lift is going to decrease significantly. Some exercises that it's way too easy to use our body's momentum might be a bicep curl, right? We have no tempo here. We're just busting out reps. We have zero tension on our muscles because we are actually using our hips to complete that bicep curl. Another commonly momentum-based exercise would be a lateral raise, okay? So we come up and we come down and we're swinging, or we're maybe jerking, right? We're using our knees to help us lift that weight, right? In order to prevent that from happening, you might see me prescribe a pause at the bottom of the rep, right? So that it prevents our ability from using momentum. We pause, we remove that momentum, and now it's forcing your muscle to complete that contraction, right? Similarly with the bicep curl, when we pause at the bottom, we are removing your ability from using momentum because we're breaking that momentum option. Now, the reason you might see me prescribe a pause when your muscle is stretched, when I say you should feel a stretch, I want you to pause in the stretch, is because when our muscles are at its most lengthened position is when it's their most weakest position, okay? So think of a rubber band. When we stretch a rubber band, it's very weak. It's in a compromised position. It's a lot easier for that rubber band to break, right, and snap. Similarly with our muscles. So when we have our muscles at its most lengthened position and I ask you to pause in that position, it's because now we're going to ask your body and your muscles to complete that contraction when we've held a pause, making sure it's at its most weakest position, okay? And so you're gonna see that a lot on, like, let's say some pull downs. When your arms are being stretched overhead, pausing in that position before we engage those lats in order to take that pull down position. You might also see that in a face away curl, where that cable or that band is stretching your bicep and it's putting your bicep in a compromised, weak, lengthened position before we say, okay, well, here's your external load. Good luck with that, right? So no matter if I'm prescribing a pause to increase your challenge so that your body can get stronger safely over time, no matter if you see a pause because that exercise is so commonly used with momentum to complete the rep, or no matter if you see a pause in the stretched or the lengthened position intentionally so that we demand more from your muscle in every single rep, pauses are a fantastic programming tool in order to make sure that you're getting the most out of every rep and your time invested lifting. Don't forget, there is more to lifting weights than just lifting weights. If we are going quickly without any tempo, that's going to be less effective than if we were to hold a pause at the bottom of a top of a rep, or maybe even have a slow eccentric release, aka keeping tension placed on the muscle. So when you see pause reps, don't expect to be able to lift the same weight as you would with that exercise without a pause. That's okay. That's the intention. It should be more challenging. But we're going to continue to see pause reps because they are so efficient at helping us get stronger and build muscle.